Right, guys. This is a new kind of show segment type thing that I'm doing. It's called Let's Talk Advocacy, and tonight we've got Vaping with Vic. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys know who Vaping with Vic is. He's up and growing. Well, he's fucking quite big now in the vaping community, and he's got a mind of his own. So let's what are you vaping on tonight? Tell us
all sorts of stuff. If I'm in a drippy mood, I've got the .com with the shitty ass Tesla temp control pile of crap which doesn't work in temp control, and if I'm in a tank mood, the age old K-Fun 4, because everyone should have a K-Fun 4 in their life. Yes.
that was not a paid advertisement.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
I got one of those from not K-Fun. What do you call the clone company? What's that
Tobacco?
clone company called? That's the one. They sent us an email and they're like, "What's your address? We'll ship this to you." And I was like, obviously, I'm still growing in the.
This is a clone as well. You think I'm going to pay £120 for a tank? No.
Well, that's the thing though. Like, obviously, I'm still growing in the community, so to speak. And got this email from them. And they're like, "If we send you this, will you just say all good things about it?"
You're going to get a lot of that. You're going to get a lot of that.
So I was like, sure, got it, filled it up, put a new build on, piss juice everywhere. Yeah. So it's up there somewhere.
This one's the iCloud clone. It's not the tobacco.
Is it? It was the tobacco one that I had.
Yeah.
Fucking horrific, mate. Horrific. Anyway, I'm vaping on the Zero clone from Infinity, and I'm vaping on some Cutwood Unicorn milk.
Oh, nice.
It's
What's
tasty.
the tank?
It's tasty. The tank's the Triton with a shitty little band on top there.
Snap! I've got the Triton with the rebuildable head in it.
I've not got the rebuildable.
Get
yet.
one. It's worth it.
Is it
it's good. Well, here, I'll show you. Rebuildable head in this. I don't sub ohm. Well, I don't sub ohm much. 1.21 ohm, 4.71. This is the disruptor, by the way. 4.71 volts, 18.5 watts, and watch this. Shit. Can't fucking complain at that. You don't need to sub ohm to chuck clouds, folks.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Right, so basically, first question is, mate, say the shit hits the fan. What's going to happen? Shit hits the fan. If they've regulated tanks down to 2 mil.
So basically, what you're asking is, what would happen if the UK took the entire Article 20 and implemented it? We would be fucked. You would instantly see all your local vape shops in your high street sell off their stock and close up shop, because all the stuff that we're on right now, your K-Funs, your regulated devices like this, your drippers, other regulated devices, mechanical mods, everything, every single tank where you can actually remove a section of it to refill would instantly become illegal. Every single wattage device like this would instantly become illegal, because there's that clause that says in Article 20 that each and every inhale should give the same dosage of nicotine. If you're bumping your watts up and down, you're not getting the same dosage of nicotine. So there's your variable wattage stuff up the spout. Your drippers, even though you're careful at dripping, if you turn one of these upside down, it will leak. These will be banned. We'll all be back to 2 mil tanks that are sealed units that all have the exact same filling method. Now, do you honestly see Aspire, Kanger, Innokin, all the big Chinese makers get together and all make the same standard filling method just for the European market?
It's not going to work. It's not going to work. The reason I ask you is because you've recently just uploaded your blue video.
Yeah, the little blue cig-alike.
And obviously you were in hospital for your eye operation and such, and you used it for the duration of you being in hospital and stuff. And you says that, you know what, it wasn't that bad. It kept me off cigarettes. I wasn't ripping. I wasn't booting Wayne.
I wasn't strangling the surgeon, punching the nurse, and running outside and kicking puppies.
That's it. So as a nicotine delivery system,
it works.
It obviously delivers your nicotine. But could you substitute what you've got in your hand now for one of those?
I'll be honest, probably not. But if push came to shove and the TPD came into effect, that full TPD, the UK government just went, fuck it, Article 20 here, you're all getting shut down, and I was forced to make a choice between smoking or using a blue cig-a-like, I'd use a blue cig-a-like, because they work. If they didn't work, Blue, Vape and all those other big companies that sell nothing but cig-a-likes, they'd be out of business straight away. The fact is that the vast majority of people who give up smoking to go on to vaping start off with either a cig-a-like or one of the lower end Gen 2 kits like a locked ego battery and a crappy little CE4 plastic tank. But if push came to shove and I was left with a choice of either smoking or vaping under TPD rules, I would still vape.
So do you think because that's what vaping could become, do you think a lot of people are not really fussed whether it happens? Because obviously they still deliver the nicotine, they're still stopping you from going into cigarettes, they're still delivering the stuff that you crave from a cigarette, but they're not giving you obviously the carcinogens and tar. Do you think that's why a lot of people just aren't really giving a fuck?
I think the issue is it's not so much people not giving a fuck. Okay, there is some people out there that think, fuck it, I don't care, I've got my stuff here already, I'm going to stockpile, I can DIY, it's not going to touch me. The biggest issue, and I've been saying this quite a few times on the live shows now, the problem that the advocacy groups have got, and I'm not dissing the advocacy groups, people like Dave Dorn from Vapor Trails does a wonderful job, people like the Vaping Militia and the Nicotine Free, or the Free Nicotine Alliance I think they're called, New Nicotine Alliance, that's it, New Nicotine Alliance, they do a wonderful job. The problem is they're preaching to the choir. They're preaching to the choir. They turn up at Vape Expos, like Vape Fest or the big expos over in the US, and you know for a fact that
it's not them people.
It's not them people you need to target. It's the new vapors that you need to target. Yeah. What these advocacy groups have to do is they need to start doing serious groundwork with the brick and mortar stores in the high street. That's what they need to do.
Yeah. And I mean, I work in a vape shop, and I can tell you straight away that although we're in a small town in Scotland, we don't have a lot of advocacy going on in this town. I mean, we've got 2 shops in this whole town. You're lucky.
We just got our first shop this month, and this is a pretty big town, man.
Well, we've got 2 shops now, and it was only the last month that a petition got handed in. Now, obviously, a month ago, TPD was already in force.
Yeah, it's already in.
You know what I mean? So we got a petition a month ago. So I mean, that's what I think that the biggest problem is. I think that people in these areas, like rural Scotland and rural England and such, they don't have enough enough fucking product to kind of help people and stuff. But what gets me is if you look at the people who are sort of fighting for vaping rights, so to speak, they are all preaching to the choir. They're all, and that's one of the biggest problems. Because obviously, if you look at all Joe Blogs just came in and bought his Ego and his C4, he doesn't know what's happening. He doesn't know what the TPD even is. So if he goes into his vape shop after May next year and he goes, oh sorry, we can't give you anything for your device, he will just go back to smoking.
He'll go back to smoking, and there's a lot of people like that as well. The issue is, yes, the advocacy groups are needed. Yes, you should support your advocacy group, but the problem is the advocacy group has to stop preaching to the choir, and it's one of the reasons, and there's been a lot of complaints about this, because I spend a lot of time in Vapors TV, and it's mostly an American audience over there. You've got people like Vapor Joe, people like Vaping with Twisted 420, who does a live show over there as well, and they've got the same complaints when I talk to them. Over here, for expos over here, you do get your advocacy people, but it's not like a stage event. They're just there in their booth chatting to folks. Over in the United States, because it's American, it's all Americanized, so they've got people on stage with a mic, with fucking loudspeakers, preaching. And the minute people mention advocacy, you're guaranteed that at least 90% of that crowd are going to go fuck and walk off because they're fed up hearing it. They keep preaching to the same people over and over again. It might have been a good message for the first 2 or 3 times, but then you start repeating yourself, and when you start repeating yourself, you start putting people off. What needs to happen over in the US and over here in the UK, even though the TPD's already been passed, right? It needs to happen. It still needs to happen here in the UK. Get the local brick and mortars involved. If the local brick and mortars do not want to get involved, name them and fucking shame them. That's what it comes down to. We need to get,
Foster, if they're not going to take part, then it's
money.
It's all about the money.
Exactly.
That's what it is. Because we've just taken some stuff on, but I mean it's obviously signing a little book isn't really going to do much now. Like, but I think what's going to happen is we're gonna get to that time where if touch wood doesn't happen, but if shit like this gets banned, a lot of people are gonna turn back to their cigarettes.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, when you read some of this stuff on this website, I mean, maximum size of cartridge or tanks do not exceed 2 mil. No, fair enough.
Yep.
2 mil is it's a decent size. It's not the biggest, it's not the smallest, but it's a decent size. But then you've got stuff like e-cigarettes must provide a consistent dose of nicotine. Now, even a cigarette doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't give off the same dose of nicotine all the time. So where they got that?
It basically means just that single line. Every single inhale should give a consistent dose. There goes your variable voltage and variable wattage devices. There goes your rebuildable decks, because the minute you change the ohm rating and resistance of a coil up or down, you're increasing or decreasing the amount of vapour. If you make a bigger coil, you're making bigger clouds. The rebuildable market will be trashed. The clearomizer market, even the CE4s, they will be trashed, because there's that little line in there about standardised non-leak filling method. No tanks out there in the market right now is no leak or is leak proof.
Yeah.
Even CE4s will become illegal. It's nuts. It's absolutely fucking nuts.
It is nuts. It is nuts. But I mean, you look at like the likes of Norway. I mean, vaping's pretty much not even an existence.
Same with Spain.
Anymore, you know what I mean?
Spain got royally shafted. Italy's heading down that road as well. They're about to get royally shafted too. Although there is the one bright spark, Austria. They decided to hold back the TPD pending further investigation. And the interesting thing for the people in the UK, right? That white paper that was released by Public Health England, which is, for all the people who's American watching this, Public Health England is basically funded by the UK government, right? You've got the BBC now saying e-cigs seem to be healthier. BBC, funded by the UK government, right? So 95% healthier than cigarettes, and now there's calls for the NHS to try and prescribe e-cigarettes to people to give up smoking. This, because we all know the Conservative Party are not really happy about the European Union. They never have been. You mention the EU to anyone in the Conservative Party, they will run away fucking screaming, because they hate the EU. Because there's one thing that brings down the Conservative government, and it's always been Europe that's brought down the government. I think what the government's trying to do is put some kind of a stopgap in. So when they are forced, and they will eventually be forced, even though we're not a full member of the European Union, we still have our own currency, we still need to implement the TPD. Yeah. But this 95% healthier than cigarettes, the NHS might start prescribing it, all that kind of stuff, that might be a kind of wedge in the door. So when the European Parliament turns round to the UK Parliament and says, by the way, you need to implement Article 20, what the government can then turn round and say, well, look at this, we've got documentation here that states what you've been saying is actually false about e-cigs. We will implement the TPD, but we will implement it as minimally as possible.
When you woke up last week and you seen the front page of the paper and it says e-cigs are 95% safer than smoke, what was the first thing that went through your head? What was the first
about
thing
fucking
about
time. Everyone fucking knew it. Everyone knew it. Dr.
Oh, yeah.
Farsalinos and all of those doctors over here, Dimitri the Vape and Greet doing all the art, but everyone fucking knew it was safer. But
that's what I wanted to touch on. I wanted to touch on how media plays a massive part in the general public. If talking, say you're walking down your local high street and you see somebody smoking, you walk up to them and go, look mate, try vaping. It's 95% safer than what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
They're going to give you that. But as soon as they open up, they go in the shop and they pick up their son and they go, oh,
yeah, it is.
It is. It's that wee guy I seen in the street was actually being serious. So the media plays a massive
print media, like your print newspapers that you buy off the shelf in your local corner shop every morning, is not so much the issue. Most folks these days are reading their news online, but even if the print media did start to turn anti-e-cig, I don't think it would have as much of an impact as people think it might have. But when online media like the Telegraph's online site, the Sun's online site, where the vast bulk of people are getting their news from now, if they start saying the same thing, which if the print media arm of it says it, obviously the online arm's going to say the same thing, would it have an impact? If people watching or reading the news took what they were reading as fact and didn't try to search on Google for the opposite side of the argument, which, let's be honest, a lot of people don't do. They just take printed media for fact. Then could it harm vaping? Yeah, it probably could.
And speak to the guys in there and get started on a starter kit. The
kit.
key word there, starter kit. Which brings me on to the K-Box.
The sub-box starter kit. I fucking raged when that thing was released. Absolutely fucking raged. You don't give a sub-ohm tank to a new vapor. I don't care what your reasoning fucking is behind it. Oh, but Vic, it's a kit. You get the battery, you get your tank. I don't give a flying fucking rat's ass. You give a new vapor something that's a hell of a lot safer to vape on. Okay, it's a Kanger product. The odds are it's probably not going to blow up in the person's face. But giving a new vapor a 0.5 ohm or a 0.2 ohm coil with a box mod and saying, there you go mate, use that, and they don't have a fucking clue about resistances, they don't have a clue, even a slightest issue or the slightest clue about Ohm's law, what's going to happen down the line? Do you know if this new vapor is going to say, I don't like this Kanger tank, I'm going to unscrew this and buy a dripper and try to make my own coils after 2 weeks worth of vaping? You don't give new vapors sub-ohm kits. For the love of God.
I think that the biggest problem with that I found was just the whole marketing and the branding of the box. Starter kit. Take out the starter kit and just call it sub-box. Simple. Because when you've got these pop-up shops and you've got these online retailers, online's different. So obviously you're not consulting anybody online. But you've got it online and you'll be looking to start vaping and they jump online and they go, oh, one of those box mods, a starter kit. It's only 50 odd quid. Happy days, gets me going. You know what I mean? And then they go, right, so I need an 18650 battery. So they jump onto the next site and they see all these 18650 batteries. You've got your Sonys, your Panasonics, and then you've got
Trustfires.
Your 599 Trustfire. So they buy their Trustfire. They stick it in, they get their tank all sorted up, and then there you go. That's them on a path, a completely different path to what they should be on in the first place. And that's a big issue I find when it comes to advocacy and stuff like that, because if you've got somebody, and just for talking's sake, the media's out, right? The media's on the rampage, and they see this kid and he's chucking these clouds in the street, and they go up to him and go, what's that you're vaping on? Oh, it's the wee sub-box that I bought off Gadgie.com. How does it work? I don't know, I've got it set at 50 watts, look at this. It's like, you don't do that.
I will say one thing though, Kanger did get a lot of heat when they released that sub-box starter kit, just for the wording they put on it. They got a lot of heat. I don't think Kanger's going to be doing that kind of mistake again. The biggest problem the community, and I keep saying that in fucking quotes because let's face it, when reviewers like myself, and I fucking hate saying the term vaping community, we are not, and I'm saying this as a reviewer myself, we are not representing the entire community, right? The reviewers, the advocacy people, the clued up vapors who are online, we are only a small percentage of the entire vaping community. The biggest bulk, 80 to 90% of the real community, are walking down your high street using a blue or using a Cigalike or using a CE4 with a locked Ego battery. They don't look at reviews, they don't go online, they have no interest in vaping forums, they have no interest in vaping Facebook groups. They're happy with the kit they're using. That's the real community.
So would you like to, just to kind of get this so people can know and hear,
basically like what's happened, Totally Wicked, who are, I think they are either the biggest or at least one of the biggest vaping chain stores in the UK. They've also got an arm over in the United States. What they have done off their own back with their own money, okay, they sell really expensive gear that's way too expensive, but you've got to give props to Totally Wicked. They got their own money, they hired their own lawyers, and they're over in the European Union right now trying to stop, not the whole TPD, right, but the specific article, which is Article 20. They're trying to stop Article 20 from at least not passing, because technically it's already passed, but they're trying to get the European Court to either halt it from going into full effect or to rewrite it, because the way they see it, and we've seen it in Spain, we've seen it in Italy, we're starting to see it in the Republic of Ireland, and we've seen it in Norway. If a European member country decides to even enact half of Article 20, the whole e-cig industry in that country is basically shut down. That's only half of that single article, and what Totally Wicked are doing off their own back, with their own money, is they've went to the European Union as a business to say, look, you do this, you're going to bankrupt so many small companies out there. You're going to basically wreck an entire industry across the European Union. From what I'm led to believe, I think it's round about October of this year, the first segment, or the beginnings at least, of the actual hearings take place. So it's going to run in for the rest of this year from October onwards, going into 2016. There's a deadline with the actual Article 20 itself. It's round about, it's either May, I can't quite remember the month. I think May's the first deadline, and then you've got August, September and October of 2016. Basically, by halfway through 2016, every member state of the European Union should, and this includes the UK, should have some form of the TPD Article 20 implemented. You've already started to see it right now with your corner shops shuttering down cigarettes, so you can't actually see cigarettes behind the counter. That's the TPD. Article 20 itself hasn't taken root in the UK yet. It's already taken root in Norway to some extent, and that basically wrecked the industry. It's already taken root in Spain. You basically can't fucking vape in Spain now. It's starting to take root in Italy. They're shafted, and the Republic of Ireland are heading down that same road as well. Us in the UK, we've had it easy, but eventually the UK government is going to have to enact the Tobacco Product Directive, and I think what Totally Wicked are hoping to do is to halt it. They can't stop it, because it's already law, but they can halt it in the courts, and that's basically it.
So basically, what we've got here is we've got all this stuff. Obviously, it's been passed. So, what would you say to people to kind of what can they do right now? Because obviously, a lot of people, when they type into Google or YouTube, they get American reviewers, and they're saying contact your local senator, contact this.
Number one, go to Totally Wicked's website and offer them support. They're not asking for money, they're not asking you to sign your fucking soul away, just show them support. The second thing you can do is almost the same as what the American reviewers are saying. Remove senator and throw in councillor or local MP. As I've said before, almost all of these local MPs have got public email addresses. Write them a letter, it won't take you that long, or bump into them when they're having their open office hour and say to them, what are you, as a local MP, going to do for the electronic cigarette industry? And if you're in a town like, or a city like Glasgow, I think Glasgow's got about fucking 6 or 7 e-cig shops now. Yeah, they've got quite a few. I mean, if the TPD was, even half of that TPD was to pass, all those shops are gone. All those livelihoods are gone. All your goodies are gone. So say that to your MP and say to them, roughly just under 2.5 million e-cigarette users. And now we've got that handy letter published by Public Health England, which is a government-run industry. We've also got the NHS also saying e-cigs turn out to be okay, let's prescribe them. So you've got all that to back you up as well. It would surprise you how many local MPs just don't have a fucking clue about electronic cigarettes. They just don't. They don't.
So when they come to the prescription, what is the prescription? Are they going to
I was going to touch on that, and it runs into the TPD. If the worst thing happens and the Totally Wicked court case fails, right? Yes, Totally Wicked have got the option to appeal, but if it fails the first time, it's basically leaving the door open for the European Parliament to basically force the TPD through, to basically cock block Totally Wicked, right? I think what's going to happen, because the UK government are saying, hey, 95% safer than cigarettes, hey, the NHS, and people are calling for the NHS to prescribe this, I think what's going to happen is a two-tier system, right? Yes, it does mean that in some way, through a backdoor means, the British government based in Westminster and up here in Scotland, they're going to have to implement at least the TPD Article 20 as minimally as possible. The one way they can do it, and I think there's a little man at the back of my head sitting next to the little angry ranty man that usually makes me rant, there's a little man in the back of my head saying they might do a licensing thing here, right? So your local doctor, your local GP says, you need to give up smoking, I'm writing you a prescription, blah 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 blah. Go down to Lloyd's the chemist, or your local favourite chemist, there's other ones available of course, and get this, and what you will see in the chemist is, or pharmacy for people in the US who are watching this, what you'll see in the chemist is stuff like Vape, stuff like Blue. You might see CE4 tanks, you might see locked ego batteries, but then the bigger chain stores, like Totally Wicked, or your local independent vape shops who are selling stuff like this, what the government might start to do is license them. Approved sellers of electronic cigarettes, the same kind of way that bars and pubs have to get a license to trade, they might start doing the same thing to electronic cigarettes, because if they do go down the road of the NHS giving out these things free prescription wise, right, technically what's happened to the electronic cigarette industry is it falls under medicinal. And the problem with having everything under the electronic cigarette, like your liquids, items like this, under medical plans or under a whole medical globe, is if you try, and this is what the original TPD was, because originally the European Parliament were trying to class this as a medicine. That flopped, so now you've got the rewritten Article 20. If the government are going down the road of trying to prescribe electronic cigarettes, what they need to do with the vaping shops, they'll want to keep those open, obviously, right? So they'll probably license them. It's like if you own a vape shop, you need to buy a registered electronic cigarette license. Now, what would that mean for the industry as a whole? You might see some of the cowboys out there who are in for a quick buck shut down. But the bigger chain shops like Vaporize, like Totally Wicked, the smaller chain shops, or the independent shops whose customer base is big enough and whose employers know what they're talking about, if they go for the license, they will obviously pass. So they'll remain open. But there's been a few people, when I was doing the live shows in Vapors TV, there's been a few people worried about the significance of the NHS prescribing this, because technically that's the UK government saying these are medicines, and they're not. That's the one worrying part about all of this.
Pretty much pretty much everything that I touched on. We touched on what's going to happen, what it is, how we can help, who the fannies are, who. So do you want to just sort of tell people what you tend to do on a daily basis, what you're vaping like? How you vaping?
I'm more of what
public,
people would. I'd like to call myself a mainstream vapor.
Like
I like tanks, right? I like 1.2 to 1.5 ohm coils. This thing's never out of my hand. It's the K-Fun clone. I do like drippers. This is the .com, and right now it is coiled out at 0.7 ohm, but I'm not a super sub ohmer. I vape to stay off the cigarettes. I like relatively high nicotine. I mean, I've got 14 milligram in this in the dripper, and that's a full lung inhale dripper. I've got round about 9 milligram in the dripper, and I used to drip 18 milligram. 18 milligram. Back in my throat's fucking asbestos now. But when I'm out and about, I usually bring this little fella with me. But when I'm in the house, sometimes I've been known for setting the fire alarm off. Yeah, sometimes, because the fire alarm's just out of that fucking door, and with this thing and the little aromomizer glass, oh my god, does this thing chuck out a load of clouds. But I'm not really... I don't mind lung inhales, but you get people that go and they just fill their whole lungs out. I'm more like P. Bissardo when it comes to lung inhales. I do a lung inhale like a normal breath. I don't fill my lungs out, I just do a normal breath. But I'm a tanker. I love tanks. Yeah, just cannot beat tanks.
I'm the same. I tried. I went through a massive phase of 9 months of dripping, and it was getting to the point where I was just wanting a vape, and my cotton was dry. So I'm like, So now that this whole sub-ohm eras came, when Aspire fucked it, and Atlantis and everybody else.
And not only that, you've got tanks out there like the Aromomizer, rebuildable dripping tank atomizer, which is basically a tank with a dripper shoved on the bottom of it. If you like the flavour of a dripper, there is tanks out there that can pretty damn well match them.
Cool stuff. Links will be in the description anyway for all that. And let us know the question for this video. What do you think would happen if it was completely banned? If you were no longer allowed to use any of your devices, what would you turn to? And be honest, don't just say what you think your mate's going to say. Be honest and
been a pleasure.
Let us know what you would do with that. Thanks for coming on, Vic.